Hello everyone, my name is Nova. Today I'd like to share a deeply personal story from my past that has had a significant impact on who I am today. This is the first time I'm talking about it, and I hope you'll stick with me until the end. The story takes us back to when I was 26 and married Adam, who is now my husband. Adam is not someone you can easily forget. His tall stature, striking features, deep blue eyes, neatly styled brown hair, and warm smile make a lasting impression on everyone he meets. We first met through a mutual friend, and honestly, I wasn't expecting much. I've always believed that love should come naturally, but I had no idea this encounter would change everything if you enjoy hearing. These are genuine, heartfelt stories. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and show your support by liking and watching the entire video. I promise you, it's a story worth hearing. However, Adam left an indelible impression on me after our first meeting. He was not only elegant, but also respectful and thoughtful. Our conversation felt natural, as if we'd known each other forever. I felt warmth in him right away, which was something I had been longing for. After getting to know each other, we decided to marry. Our wedding was simple but full of joy and love. I vividly recall the day I wore a pure white wedding gown, holding Adam's hand as we walked down the aisle, surrounded by our family and friends. We exchanged our vows in front of everyone, and I truly believed I had found someone who would love me for the rest of my life. Our married life began like a dream. Adam was a devoted husband, always caring for and looking after me. He was the director of a household materials company, a position for which he worked hard. Despite his busy schedule, he always made time to have dinner with me or chat after a long day. I felt fortunate because I had not only a wonderful husband, but also a loving home, at least in the early days. Adam, our life together seemed perfect. I was lucky to have found someone caring, successful, and loving, but his job kept taking up more time. He would leave the house at 6 a.m. and wouldn't return until 9 p.m., or even later if there were urgent meetings or projects. His company wasn't close to our house, so even though he drove a luxury BMW, the commute took him nearly an hour each way. He frequently left for a day or two on business trips, leaving me feeling incredibly lonely. I missed him terribly, especially at dinner when I was alone, but I consoled myself by remembering that all of his hard work was for our future. Initially, I convinced myself that he was sacrificing his time for both of our happiness, and I felt perfect despite his demanding schedule. Adam always made an effort to prioritize our time together. We'd eat dinner together, watch movies, or simply talk about our days, making the most of each moment. Our bond was strong, and I felt his love in every moment we shared. I thought we were a perfect couple, and nothing could change that. However, as time passed, his work pressure increased, and Adam began to change. He'd come home exhausted, barely able to muster enough energy for a conversation. Dinner was often a quiet, subdued routine, and instead of spending time with me, he'd go to bed early to prepare for the next day. Every morning, he was out the door for work before I even got up. Our relationship began to change gradually, and the distance between us grew. Adam grew too worn out to meet my needs. There were nights when I tried to engage him in intimacy, but he would smile and say he needed to rest. I understood he was tired, but despite my strong feelings for him, I couldn't help but feel neglected and alone. He was no longer meeting my emotional needs. For a young, vibrant woman like myself, the growing emptiness was difficult to ignore. I kept telling myself that this was just a phase and that our love would prevail. But deep down, I couldn't deny that the distance was causing gaps in our relationship at the time. I was still young and full of energy, with strong desires and needs. Adam's long work hours and frequent trips left me feeling increasingly deprived of the unbearable loneliness, and I often found myself trying to comfort my emotions in solitude on any given day. Adam left early for work, leaving me behind to do the housework. Nothing unusual happened at first, but later, as I finished the housework, I felt an uncomfortable restlessness in my heart, a smoldering ache. Adam had been too busy all week to spend time with me, and his absence had begun to wear on me. I felt compelled to express my emotions, so I went into the bedroom, where I felt most at ease to unwind. I'm not sure if I closed the door or forgot in my haste, but I became lost in my emotions, completely unaware of what was going on around me. The room remained silent as my emotions consumed me entirely. That's when I looked up and saw a figure standing by the door. It was my father-in-law. Jackson was staring directly at me, leaving me stunned and unable to speak. His eyes remained fixed on me, and I realized he had been watching me for some time without my knowledge. I panicked, attempting to conceal my confusion. "Dad, what are you doing there?" Jackson stammered, seemingly snapping out of a trance. "Oh, I was just passing by," before quickly adding, "Don't." Worrying that I couldn't see anything in his words only added to my confusion. I hadn't asked anything yet, and he was explaining himself as if he had something to hide. The silence between us was deafening, and the tension in the room was palpable after that. Jackson quickly left, and I stood there, my heart pounding. All day, I couldn't stop thinking about him standing at the door, wondering what would happen next. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. That afternoon, the soft yellow glow of the sunset poured through the kitchen window, coloring the space in warm light. I was preparing dinner as usual while Adam was still away at work. The house was quiet, filled only with the sounds of chopping and the scent of food cooking. I wore a thin white tank top and a knee-length skirt, feeling comfortable at home. Suddenly, I felt a strange sensation, as if someone was watching me. I paused and slowly turned my head. Standing at the kitchen door, Jackson was staring at me, his eyes wide-eyed and unblinking. I was shocked. After a moment, I spoke, trying to sound like normal dad. "What are you looking at?" Jackson appeared startled, as if waking up. He awoke from a trance, his face flushed, and he stammered, "Oh no, I was just thinking." He quickly turned and left the kitchen, his footsteps unsteady, leaving me standing there feeling both uncomfortable and confused. His actions reminded me of when he first saw me in the room, and I began to realize that his behavior wasn't just my imagination. He often stared at me for longer than usual, and I caught him smiling to himself when his eyes lingered on me. I tried to convince myself that it was just a father-in-law's concern for his daughter-in-law, but I couldn't ignore the growing discomfort I felt as his actions became bolder. Whenever we passed in the narrow hallway, his hand would briefly brush mine, even if it was only for a moment. It startled me. I wasn't sure if these gestures were intentional, but there was growing unease. I started to feel trapped in my own house, and I noticed him quietly watching me from a distance, his gaze full of something I couldn't name. One morning, the sunlight streamed into the kitchen, and we were having breakfast together as a family. The clatter of chopsticks and bowls breaking the silence as the meal was coming to an end. Adam looked at us all. I was cleaning when I felt two strong hands wrap around me tightly. I dropped the towel in my hand, my heart racing before I could react. Jackson whispered in a trembling voice, "Nova, can I hold you for a moment?" I froze my body stiff, unable to believe what I was hearing, as a wave of emotions washed over me. I wanted to resist and push him away, but my body seemed to betray me. I took a deep breath and managed to say, "Dad, you cannot do this. It's wrong," but he hasn't released me. He drew me closer, his breath warm against my ear, his body tense. "Nova, I know this is wrong, but I can't stop myself." I had kept this inside for far too long, and I was filled with shame, anger, and fear. I tried to break free, but he held on tight, as if desperate to confess everything he had been hiding. "I can't forget what I didn't intend to look at. Stop thinking about yourself. I'm sorry, but I can't control myself anymore." My face burned with embarrassment and anger, and I finally pushed harder. Breaking free. I turned around and looked at him with determination. "Dad, this is not right. I cannot accept this, please." Jackson lowered the stop. His gaze fell, but after a moment he lifted his head, eyes filled with resolve, and stepped closer, his voice low but urgent. "Nova, I can't hide this any longer. Since that day, I haven't been able to forget how much this feeling hurts." I stepped back, my hands gripping the edge of the dining table, my heart racing with fear and anger. "Dad, this isn't right. This is our family. You can't think like this." But he didn't stop. He moved closer, almost pleading. "Just once, Nova, and I promise it won't go any further." I couldn't take it anymore and turned away. "Dad, please stop avoiding his gaze. This is a family that we cannot destroy." Jackson breathed in and refused to give up. "Nova, I can't forget what I saw. I have tried. But you can't make me feel alive again after all these years of being alone. You don't understand my anger mixed with guilt and helplessness." I turned to him, my voice firm and resolute. "Dad, I can't. I will not do this. This is my family. Please stop before it's too late." My words struck him like a blow to the eyes, filled with pain and disappointment. After a long silence, he lowered his head, his voice hoarse. "Nova, I'm sorry. I don't deserve to be your father-in-law. I don't know why I acted like this. I couldn't control myself." I stood still, my eyes locked on him. My heart was still racing, but I managed to say calmly, "This has to stop now. This is our family, and I would never cross this boundary." Jackson did not respond, simply nodding as if he accepted my words. He then stepped back, his face filled with regret and fatigue. He turned and walked out of the room, his footsteps heavy, echoing in. In the hallway, I stood there shaken, finally breathing a sigh of relief. But I knew the peace of this home had been shattered, and I couldn't forget what had happened. From that day on, my father-in-law, Jackson, appeared to vanish from our daily routine. He seldom ventured outside and devoted most of his time to his room, as if his connection to the world had been severed. When he did appear, it was only for brief moments, walking quietly past me without saying a word, avoiding any eye contact. The atmosphere in the house became heavy, and his silence was a constant reminder of what had happened. Adam had no idea what had transpired. He assumed his father was just going through a phase of sadness or loneliness as he aged. One evening during dinner, Adam remarked that he noticed Jackson was no longer as enthusiastic. He told me, "I think Dad is tired or something is wrong. He doesn't go outside as much as he used to, and he's no longer interested in the things he once loved. Maybe I should take some time to talk to him, but I'm not sure where to begin." I nodded and kept my voice calm. "I think Dad just needs some time off," I said softly, attempting to suppress the anxiety inside me. The truth was that only I knew why Jackson had withdrawn, and the guilt weighed heavily on me every day. I often wondered if things would ever return to normal. I wish I could forget everything and return to the past. But the look Jackson gave me on the rare occasions we crossed paths in the house still haunts me. They weren't filled with anger or resentment, but with a heavy, lingering sadness, like he was trapped in his own unbearable guilt. I didn't know what to do. Should I try to ignore everything and pretend it never happened? Or should I confront it and find a way to resolve it? Regardless of my decision, I could feel the distance growing between me and him, and the peace in our family slowly slipping away. Time was passing, but I knew deep down that these wounds would never heal through this experience. No matter the circumstances, I learned the most important lesson of my life. Never cross the moral boundary. In moments of weakness or emotional turmoil, we may be tempted to act impulsively, but the consequences can be devastating and irreversible. It's crucial to maintain ethical boundaries and protect what truly matters, our family. Avoiding or ignoring problems won't make them go away. It often makes them worse. The key to protecting ourselves and our loved ones' lives and staying resilient is standing by our values and respecting ourselves. One of the most valuable lessons I've learned is the importance of open and honest communication, especially in family relationships. We should never shy away from sharing our feelings and concerns with those closest to us, particularly our partners. Keeping things bottled up can lead to misunderstandings and create. Thank you for listening to my story. If this message resonated with you, please support me by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated, and I am eager to share more stories with you in the future.